We've definitely seen the starting move of a correction here. Bitcoin topped out at the all-time high, and it's now managed to retrace down into one of the most critical zones on this chart. So we're going to be covering how likely it is that Bitcoin starts collapsing below this and we start kind of ending the bull market. Or how likely is it that actually we kind of reverse this thing now and start setting those all-time highs as we're looking for. So there's a lot that we're going to be going through in this YouTube video. If you're excited for it like I am, do me a favor and smash up those likes and double check, of course, that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on the best quality grounded analysis in this market. Super, super real time. That's why you got to make sure you show the algorithm that you love it. But if we come over to this chart here, we have fallen squarely into our main zone of support. So congratulations to those of you that have not taken any of these opportunities in the market to panic. Congratulations to those of you that didn't take those opportunities to panic and who've actually stayed very, very grounded and level-headed. Bitcoin has only done exactly what was super obvious and easy to expect of it, which is that it's come down to grab a little bit of support after encountering a resistance level. So pretty standard procedure stuff so far, and we are down to the main zone of support. Now, if we analyze what this zone of support means for Bitcoin, it is clearly the single most important price level in this entire range between $60,000 and $70,000 in my opinion, and it's marked in a couple of different ways to be that most important level, but obviously the most obvious way of showing that is going to be this volume profile, and specifically looking at all of these peaks that are coming in here with this histogram, suggesting that a lot of Bitcoins have been exchanged at this price range, stretching between $67,000 and $68,000. So we're seeing Bitcoin kind of come back now into a place where there's actually been historically a lot of support and resistance for Bitcoin at this particular price level. I wouldn't say that it's leaning more support or more bearish, leaning one way or another. I don't think that it matters, but clearly there's a lot that's happened around this price level. So, and it's not just this VPVR tool. There are indicators we can throw on to suggest the same thing. If we look at this with the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud, we don't have a lot of it left, but we do still have support here from the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud. And according to this particular indicator, we're going to bounce right now. So we'll see how this goes for the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud. We've also got a couple of tweets and the fear and greed index to look at with a reading of 70. So we'll come back to that in just a minute here. And there's a ton more that I want to talk through with you in this YouTube video. Obviously, we've got the dominance, we've got Ethereum against Bitcoin, the rest of the altcoins, and the stars of the show really being traditional finance. We'll get to those in just a minute because we all know that those are the most important charts to be analyzing. If you want to know what the hell's going on with Bitcoin, you got to look at what's going on with the dollar. You got to look at what's going on with the S&P 500, because Bitcoin is just going to basically generally be a kind of trickle down, more volatile, more extreme version of whatever is happening with things like the S&P 500, especially these days. Exceptions don't disprove the rule. So here, back on Bitcoin, just before we move on, that Ichimoku cloud really giving some support to Bitcoin here, which I think is worth paying attention to, because this is a zone of opportunity now for Bitcoin. Now, if we take a look at this with the EMA ribbon here on the 4-hour, we've lost it quite some time ago. It's actually now forming resistance. But on the daily time frame, we've only just fallen into it, and this is kind of where the support starts. So those of you that have been watching me in the recent days, you're going to remember that I've basically been telling you that, Bitcoin hasn't even started using its support levels yet, and so I can't even, I can't really cast any judgment or get excited or scared. But now Bitcoin has met its zones of support, and I think that's actually really, really nice the way it's happened, right? I mean, this correction started back on the 29th of October. Today, at the time of recording, it's the 4th of November. So it's been a good kind of 6-7 days for Bitcoin to get down here, and it's moved down by about 9%. So it's a respectable drop. It's happened in a respectable time frame, and it's fallen down to very respectable support indicators. So for me, it's actually going to be a case now of evaluating, are people growing a little bit disenfranchised with this market now? Are people growing a little bit upset with what's been going on in this market? And if the answer is yes, then I think we're going to be in a pretty good place Because if people start getting a little bit upset with the fact that the market has just fallen down to support levels, well, ladies and gents, that is how you bounce off support levels. We had the same thing happening on this dip and on this dip here. Those of you that are watching this YouTube channel are going to remember that we were falling down to support levels, especially this one right here. We were falling down to very obvious support levels, this one being $60,000, yet people still want to make a fucking scene about it, and people still want to get all upset about it and start making a bunch of drama about it. And so naturally, you know, where people start kind of losing faith in the market right as it approaches support levels, that's actually where a lot of the money can be made. And what we know about these support levels is that if you got 60K here as your support level, you are going to be expecting a little bit of kind of wick deviation action here, where the price kind of dips below its support level by just a little bit, enough to screw people over. But if if you know how to trade these markets, then it'll actually work in your favor, and you'll actually start pulling trades like what I'm in, because you guys know about my trades that I actually managed to open up on Bybit, and that's been going really well for me. Here's a look at how that's been going on for me here on Bitcoin. If I go ahead, and I gotta raise my screen brightness, that's why you couldn't see that, but you can go ahead and pause that and read that if you're curious. And obviously that's going to be, you know, well over 2,000% profit on my Bitcoin position, well over 1,000% profit on my TRX position. And I took both of these trades for the exact same reason, which is that I saw a zone of support and I anticipated that the market might sweep that zone by just a little bit, punch in a low a little bit lower than what we're expecting, but then continue moving up. That's how I took both of these trades. And obviously, they've been paying me for a very, very long time now. If you're interested in trading these markets as well, then trading on Bybit, which is the same platform I used here, will give you up to $30,000 in free trading capital when you start trading using my link. So literally just by trading using this link here, you're going to get up to 30K of more free money that you can trade with. You can generate profits with. Any profits you make, you're going to withdraw. It's all going to be yours. Apex is their decentralized sister exchange. Absolutely great stuff. Very, very powerful tech offering here. And Blowfin is just a great alternative to all of that. Well worth checking out. By the way, those of you that are curious, we got Ghost down here, but he's having a little nap, so we could deal with him later. But yeah, Blowfin, great alternative, well worth checking out. And bottom line, only make sure to access these platforms if you are allowed to, and if you're not in a restricted region. But let's bring it back here to Bitcoin. And if we take a look at Bitcoin here before we move on, like I said, that zone of support is going to be very interesting. And what's going to be also very interesting is that little zone underneath support that I mentioned to you. I also traded this move and I went long on Bitcoin down here. Unfortunately, I got stopped at break even. But the reason that I went long perfectly at the bottom was the exact same reason that I'm telling you I think Bitcoin could potentially do this again, which is that even though you know your support is here, you are going to expect wicks coming down a little bit lower. So I'm going to say that kind of anything as low as this previous low that Bitcoin punched in is going to be okay for us. If we manage to fall below that low, it's not going to be so great, because it would indicate that actually this market is not super strong, and that actually, you know, we're going for a little bit of a deeper liquidity grab rather than just a bit of a scam wick. And so I think that would definitely be a problem. But anything above kind of 65.5, 65.2, according to this line right here, I think is going to be okay. You know, and this is going to be where I'm expecting that bounce to come in. So we got to see, is there going to be a bounce or not? If we get a bounce, then I'd be expecting that bounce, whether it starts from up here or a little bit lower, like 66. I would expect that bounce to first be targeting $71,000. This has historically been resistance for Bitcoin throughout this year, but it wasn't resistance most recently. So even though I'm expecting us to hit this zone, I'm not expecting it to be a problem, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin gets through it. With that said, there was a lot of excitement here we might have a little bit less on the subsequent attempt at this resistance level. So if we do get back up here, and if we do get rejected, no problem at all. I'm still expecting support down here again, and I'm still expecting another attempt at this resistance level. It's the same stuff that we were saying just a few days ago on this YouTube channel. Those of you that have been watching this channel very regularly, again, those of you that are subscribed, you're going to be very intimately familiar with these ideas by now. It's something that we've spoken about quite a bit. But if we take a look at this here, like I said, rejection up at the 71k level, no problem at all. You still got support beneath, and then I'd expect us to get back up there again. So either way, I think we're recovering this thing. We just need to see if that bounce comes in, and I think that bounce, is going to have to initiate anywhere here to about $2,000 lower than here, a little bit more than 2k lower. Like I said, I'm gonna accept these moves below 66k, but they have to be quick, and that's the same thing that I said last time, ladies and gents, when I was describing these wicks before they even happened, when I was telling you that they're probably gonna happen, and I was telling you that I might trade it, and obviously I did take that position. The reason that I was okay with this trade is that when these lows were punched in the market, when Bitcoin fell below 66k, it did not stay below 66k. It only stayed below 66k for like 20 minutes, maybe less than that, maybe 10 minutes. And so it didn't stay below that level for a long time. It actually recovered pretty quickly. Anything within an hour or anything within a day, or sometimes even on a weekly time frame. On this, I wouldn't look for a week. This is too short term. But depending on what you're looking at, even a weekly time frame, if you don't get that weekly close or that daily close below the level, you're good. You can fuck around. You can fish down at lower levels. As long as you're coming back up before that candle closes, you're good. And that's what happened here with Bitcoin. And that's how I would be entertaining this zone here. You see, if we start kind of coming down to this zone and it looks like, we're not bouncing up that quick and it looks like we're kind of hanging out here a little bit too much, that's going to be a really strong sign I'm going to take that actually this thing might be looking to dip down. So we're going to have to pull something off from around this price range here. That's definitely the key point. And like I said, I don't think there's too much resistance up ahead for Bitcoin if it does happen. And I certainly think that Bitcoin should be able to get back up to its all-time high. It's also now proven to be a nice sizable pullback. We've had bigger pullbacks throughout this uptrend so far, but we have at least formed a pullback now, and like I said, it's across a respectable period of time as well. If it takes a little bit longer for Bitcoin to get back up to its previous high and start breaking that high, that is also completely okay with me on this market here. Now, looking at Bitcoin's dominance, we've seen it continue to rise up yesterday. It's punched in a new high yesterday at 60.54. Right now we're sitting at 60.35. No big deal here. Nothing kind of crazy going on right now. Bitcoin's dominance still inching its way higher. Sometimes it moves up a little bit faster, sometimes a little bit slower. But the bottom line is that we still got Ethereum dying over here. We still got our other altcoins holding on by a thread. This is Cardano just on the edge of a horrific collapse here on this chart. So we're going to be having to watch that very, very closely. And of course, we're still going to be having some of our stronger picks looking appropriately strong as well. Solana has managed to fall down into the buy zone that I described. It's also bounced off the buy zone that I described very, very well. But that bounce wasn't very strong. And we're now kind of getting back into this zone. So if we spend too much time testing this zone, I will probably have to expect that the market dips down a little bit. I will have to probably expect that the market finds support down closer to $130, maybe $140, some kind of interim support levels before we get there. But yeah, we're going to have to watch this level and see how it goes. I think too much more time here is probably going to result in a collapse here for this very short-term support level. But that's not concerning or bad at all for Solana, in my opinion. I think Solana's still in very, very good posture. It's still in a very, very good place. And to be honest, this is still support. So, I think as long as this level doesn't break, we're good. If it does dip below kind of 157.8, then that's going to be the sign that, it might be time to start kind of expecting this thing to drop. But as long as it stays above this low at 157.8, I think it's still technically in the same uptrend. So, I'm quite happy to kind of be happy about Solana there. What's very interesting is the S&P 500. The S&P 500 had a bearish week. It had a bearish Friday. It's now opened on Monday today, and it's actually going to be closing somewhat soon in about 2.5 hours. And it's not been a good trading session so far. It has halted disaster. We have been able to stave off disaster here just for a minute. And it has actually recovered a little bit of the initial weakness that the S&P 500 was experiencing here, but it didn't do particularly well. There's still a lot more that it could have done, and dare I say, more importantly, that it should have done. The S&P 500 still needs to get significantly higher until it's going to be in kind of safer territory. But if it does start kind of losing these lows, it's probably just coming down to another zone of support. And it wouldn't be a problem at all, because I think that would be really, really good for Bitcoin. So again, there's no losing here. I think it would be better to see a recovery on the S&P 500. It looks like it's trying, so we're going to have to see how the rest of this Monday trading session goes. You're going to know what that's looking like maybe by the time you're watching this video or later on. And of course, the dollar is another very, very interesting, in this case, currency to be watching, because it has fallen out of its range here. And typically when that's happened, we would be expecting some volatility here for the dollar. So we're going to be seeing if the dollar starts really moving down quite aggressively, or if it's able to hold on. Speaking of the dollar, it is, of course, the U.S. presidential election tomorrow. So that might be a little bit of the reason that things have been, just kind of holding steady, waiting to see what happens. So we'll see how this goes as time goes on. It's not going to be very long now until we start to get some of the answers we're looking for to our questions. But the way things are being left off now, I'm still pretty happy with it. I still think it's looking pretty good. You got the S&P 500 still basically at all-time highs. You got the dollar kind of just getting ready to dip down. So, that's going to be good for Bitcoin. You got gold, sitting pretty at all-time highs as well, and Bitcoin knocking on the door of those all-time highs. So as far as I'm concerned, ladies and gents, everything's still looking pretty damn sweet, pretty clean to me. I think if we lose this current level that we're at, I got a little bit of patience for Bitcoin, but not too much patience. We got to recover quickly if we get below 66, but I will tolerate it. But below that, I'm going to be expecting the very low 60s, like 61. You do have a couple of support levels in between, like 61, 64, 63. I'm not really too worried about them. I'm just going to be looking for 61. We'll see. We'll analyze it more closely, when the time comes. But that's what I'm looking at there. I am expecting this to be a bounce zone. It's been a nice drawn-out pullback. So far, it looks like it's going to be a bounce zone. We'll see how it behaves for Bitcoin. We'll have to keep an eye on this. Actually, another thing that I want to do before I get off is I actually want to go ahead and take a look at this with a fib retracement. I think that could be particularly interesting. So let's just see if there are any interesting fibs, starting off with the most extreme one, from the absolute low to the absolute high. We have 618 support at $58,000. So that's a really nice level for Bitcoin to return down to. I don't know if we're going to get down there. I don't think we will. But if Bitcoin did get down there, there's a lot of support waiting for Bitcoin there. Same thing over here. It's sitting at about $59,000-$60,000 for that 618 retracement. But then moving it on to this, which is probably the most realistic, applicable Fibonacci. We got a really nice 618 level down here at 64, and we got a really good 382 level, which is the equivalent of the 618, of course. This is the mirror, the 382. That is right now where we are at the moment. So let's see how that goes for the market. And I think as long as we don't kind of, lose this wick, we're basically respecting this 382 level really well. And the 382 level is definitely a reason to expect the market to bounce, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that it's going to, but it serves me much more often than it doesn't serve me. So I'm actually quite happy to be seeing that. But with that said, ladies and gents, I'm going to have to head off for this video. If you are looking for some extra trading capital, if you want to kind of shortcut your trading journey a little bit and just trade with some more money, withdraw any profits that you generate, then you can get that free money by trading using these links in the description. If you like the sound of that, if you like the sound of a ton of free money that you get to trade with, then you can start trading, signing up using these links below. And only if you're not from a restricted region, only if you're allowed to in the country that you're in. But there you go, ladies and gents. I hope that you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do if you have, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.